oh, wait a minute, we're getting serious here. And that 1 year later was like when I saw Endgame, and it was like 5 years later. It's like, fuck, what happened
Is
in
it the
that?
SpongeBob voice from
Yeah.
5 years later?
5 years later. And what's up, y'all, and welcome to an episode of For All Nerds that I've been waiting for a long time to do. It's your boy DJ Ben, aka Yerda, aka Chewbacca Khan, aka Lando Californication, aka Sith Happens, the Red Eye Master, the Riz Skywalker here on the spaceship. Join very special guest,
Mellow Brown. And if you heard the last one, you know what the AKA is, which is AKA Brown Recluse, because I've been away for a little while, but we're back. We're doing it.
Mm-hmm. And you were actually here. I'm not sure. No, because you were here to talk about Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze, of course. But before that, the last time I think you were on the show was to talk about Andor season 1. Yeah. And then we just dropped our season 1 recap and why you should watch Andor. If you haven't peeped that, you should peep that because that's both on, the For All Nerds channel.
We hear us get emotional and lose our minds a bit.
But yeah, just a little bit. We talked about how it might be the greatest TV show of all time and things of that nature. And, I almost went to tears again just thinking about season 1.
Yeah, just telling the truth.
Just telling the truth, folks. But we are here. You're watching this sometime after April 22nd. The first 3 episodes of Andor season 2. After all this time, after all these years, especially if you've been listening to the show, it's been years of me talking about how much I love Andor and how much you should watch it and how much I can't wait for season 2 and blah, 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 on and on and on. And we are finally here. The first 3 episodes of season 2 have now dropped on Disney Plus. Mello and I have seen them. This will be a spoiler-filled review. We are going to examine everything. We ain't going to get into all the details. We ain't going to sit here and recap every little moment that happened. We just going to talk about, how we felt, all the greatness that we saw, everything else. So please make sure you've watched the first 3 episodes of Andor season 2 now on Disney Plus. Just off the bat, Mello, what were your overall feelings?
Actually, I loved it. It's one of those things where I, obviously coming off of, what was it, the best first season of any TV show I've ever seen.
Damn.
And then going
better than Lost.
It's better than
better than The Wire.
It's better than all of them.
Yeah, and it is. It might be the best first season of any show.
And the tough part about that is that it feels very conclusive. Where like if it didn't continue, it's just like, all right, I can just go watch Rogue One and I'm all right. But this right here, it's starting off in a place where these initial first 3 episodes are this conversation about consequences and changes. And I would say the only person who's in a position where it's just like, I am better is Cassian himself, where he found a purpose. He kind of found out what his identity is and the reason for the things that he does. But everyone else who made that hard shift as to like, this is who I'm going to be at a time where it's the worst time in history for me politically, for everyone of my gender, my race, all of it. This is who I'm going to be. And when you begin to push back against something, you're going to hit that Empire Strikes Back moment where it's just like, oh, it pushes back hard. And it's going to start affecting me in ways that I could never imagine.
Yeah, and as a child, I think that's why I love The Empire Strikes Back so much. And I remember just being as a kid, like just the name, I was like, yo, The Empire Strikes Back. Like, that's crazy, like they had their victory and now the Empire Strikes Back. That's effing crazy. And like you said, this feels like consequences because my first thoughts were just like you. Off top, the first 3 episodes, I was waiting, I was hoping, I'm like, oh God, please let this be good, because I've been hyping this shit up so long to everyone I know, and I know the first season is that good, so I just had faith that the team was gonna bring it home, and every interview I read leading up to it just made me like, oh yeah, no, these motherfuckers know what they're doing. They were talking bitch shit. Diego Luna was like, Rogue One's to be recontextualized. You got to watch it after, because we know what we did here. And I'm like, oh, and Gilroy was like, yo, da-da-da-da-da. So I'm like, okay, this is got to be crazy. And it starts off right away with the hammer banging and all the emotions, come back to you. And then immediately that 1 year later, and then the 4 years before the Battle of Yavin drops, and you're like, oh, okay. Oh, wait a minute. We're getting serious here. And that 1 year later was like when I saw Endgame, and it was like 5 years later. It's like, fuck, what happened
in
that?
The SpongeBob voice for that?
Yeah.
5 years later.
5 years later. Yeah, and it was like, wow, what happened in that year? And then, then suddenly Cassian's in a rebel pilot, not rebel, in an Imperial pilot's uniform. Mm-hmm. And he got this thick baddie flirting with him, and they're pulling the plot, and he's being the Cassian that we all know and love. Like you said, they can just talk to anyone, convince anyone, just make you feel right, and just you get right into that. And then my man busting the TIE Interceptor, and I'm like, oh, these motherfuckers are spending money. Like big money. Like this shit looks beautiful. It's gorgeous. Everything just feels right. I'm so mad I didn't get to see this on a big screen. I'm hoping that there's a screening and I get to, because Lord have mercy.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I know this season cost them, it was like somewhere around like $670 million total.
That's insane.
Considering
12 episodes.
Each set is a movie. And they openly admit that we're going to get 4 sets, and each of them are going to be like a very dense 3-hour film chronicling a year in a life of Cassian Andor and everyone involved in this level of the rebellion.
It's just, it's hard to talk about. So,
I will say this. Yeah. It starts off so much more fun than I was expecting.
Yes.
Like this initial episode, like the beginning of it is
all
designed,
3 of these episodes even.
It definitely loses the fun as it's going out the door.
It does get a little dark.
I hope you're listening to this after you've watched, because you're probably in a place where you like staring at a wall like myself and my wife were when we wrapped at episode 3. But where we start at the beginning of the first episode, it is a place where it's just like you're meeting a Cassian that is now like fully a rebel.
Mm-hmm.
He has something that he has believed in for the first time in his life, and the thing that it's very beautiful to see is that he believes in it. I want to say he believes in other people, and it's hard to say that sometimes, because you know what that character is willing to do. But the thing that he does believe in is that like the Empire cannot win.
Yes,
and that is a running theme with every conversation that he has within these few episodes, where it's just like there's an insistence where it's just like it is as natural to him as like just water to drink. It's like they can't win, and there's a level of like coolness and a confidence in it where you're just like, this is like hero in a way that you wouldn't expect from the first season of the same character, where it's just like, I cannot be involved would be his motto going forward. But now he's just like, I refuse to see them exist in the same space as me. And it's really, really dope. And we see that reflected within like his conversation that he's having with this young woman, just really fly young woman that she's talking to, that he's talking to, that is inside of the Imperial base, and her having these doubts of being like, I know I'm working as a mole, I know I'm working to sabotage this fascist regime, but just to bring us back to just how complex this show is, there's something that she says, which is just like, I have fun here. Like, I have people that I like and I care about. Even her manager that comes up and is asking her questions and is like very sweet to her about like, oh, he's like that dude cute that you're talking to over there and everything like that. You could fully understand why she's like, I have doubts about doing this, and he has to remind her, like, you didn't come here to be complicit. Like, you didn't talk to me because you thought that this was the right place to be, and like that is And fantastic way to start the season.
And then even in that same scene, you have these stormtroopers walk by and they're complaining about their workload and things they have to do. And they're like, but you bring that up, man, and they'll ship you off to so-and-so. And so, and then they just go about their business. So that's the thing. You see all the sides of it. Like, it humanizes the people who are part of the Empire, but then at the same time lets you know, oh, well, like, this is a war, like Saul said in the first season, we'll call it war. Things happen in war. Yeah. And like, I love that scene so much because, one, you have this thick Black woman, something we don't always get to see on screen, being part of the rebellion, especially in Star Wars. Honestly, I don't know. We just have not really seen that, but she fly, she's helping, she says it, I might die tonight, but is this worth it? And that's the reality. Like, that was something else as I was watching this. I'm like, and we talked about this on our recap, is that this show always reminds you that death is right around the corner for any of these people. That is what this is about. Any of these characters. Like, we're jumping around, but like we say, if you've seen all three of these episodes, then, obviously, we're at. But in the third episode, I remember it was about halfway through the third episode, right when shit's jumping off, where I'm like, oh fuck, man. Any of these people could die. Like, I was like, The only one I know who's gonna live, and I know he's gonna die too, spoiler alert, is Cassie. But it's,
I mean, Mothma's coming out, all right.
Yeah, right. She does, yeah. I think I don't know too much about her, and I'm avoiding that. I know she survived for a while.
You've seen Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I know she's there at the end, right? Yeah, she's still there at the end of Return. Yeah, so okay,
that bad haircut.
Yeah. So, but the rest of them, who knows what happens to them? Maybe they escape to other parts of the universe. I don't know, but I do know the fact is that any one of them could die at any moment, and sadly, that happens. So
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
On episode 1, one thing that I actually found really interesting, just to kind of like summarize it into like thematically, I guess you could say, there's something really interesting about how each of these scenes, each taking place, that includes everything from that conversation we were just speaking about with Cassian and the Defector, that conversation we were just having about like within a previous podcast, like sort of the immigrant experience, and how you have a really relevant conversation about visas coming up for Bix and Brazo and Will, I believe his name is, and like how they are like, they're getting comfortable in this place and they find value in themselves in this place and everything like that. But the minute the Empire drops in, they're just like, we're just trying to deport some people. And like, they're having this conversation about like, what is it going to feel like? What is it going to be when like our lives get lifted upside down? And then you have another conversation with the Empire where they're just talking about, like, real casually, hey, this is how you do a genocide, so that way we can get a Greenland. I'm sorry, a Goran under our government, and we can start having new resources that we can mine for ourselves. So we have an advantage in a war coming up, and like, it's so many of these conversations are also asking, where are you in this? Are you on the more like, I work for the Empire and I'm a little bit complicit and I want to do something about it? Or are you someone who's just like, I feel like I need to tuck away and hide because they're coming directly from me because I got a little bit of melanin in my skin? Are you someone, or do you know someone that is like, yeah, I'm just kind of like helping them do the genocide, but at the same time, like, it's for us. Like, it's not what I want to do, but I'm gonna do it because like that's the job, I guess. How do you position yourself in this? And no matter who you are, there's a place for you to be. There's even one of my favorites is like how much is actually shitting on me being a leftist. I love that they're shitting on leftists and how unorganized they are, and how like terrible they are at this. And how they, it's a quote that I always think about that you say, Ben, which is like, if you are going to be fighting a revolution, you gotta get used to eating rats. And these motherfuckers do not want to eat rats. At all.
Mon Mothma is not about that rat eating life right now.
She is nuts.
Mon Mothma is thinking, okay, I can just put money up. It'll be a nice little clean, pretty rebellion. All my friends will live to the end, and
my hands will never be dirty.
My hands will never be dirty, and we'll all live happily ever after. Yep. And this, like, one thing I also loved about this 3-episode arc, because it focuses on this Shandy wedding. You know, it's a Shandy wedding. He came from 3 valleys away. He should know better. I love it. I love all the little details, man. The fucking the distro ball DJ, everything was so awesome. But you know, it's the loss of innocence, because you know, we're 1 year later and now Mon's daughter is getting married. You know, we weren't sure where it was going, and you know, we are at the wedding and Mon is against it. And before we get there, like when, you know, the opening, you know, we see the daughter showing off her gown and she's all happy, and then we have this shot where Mon walks around her estate up and down stairs. It's one long shot. And I'm sitting there like, once again, we had that TIE interceptor scene at the beginning where I'm like, oh, the money's being spent. And then I'm like, oh, not only is the money being spent, we are stunting with whatever type technology we're using. Because I know that was a combination of set and CGI, but it felt seamless. And the way she was going up and down stairs, and, you know, we're getting reacquainted with all these characters and where they're at. And she's overwhelmed with everything. And things are moving. Luthen shows up. She does not know why he's there. And she's thinking, like she said, she just like, oh, here's to be my nice little wedding. You know, you know, I hate that my daughter's getting married, but this is my wedding. This is not part of that rebellion shit over there. You know, I'm having my good, clean life over here. And no, that's not the case. Like you said, consequences.
Yeah, there's so much in like that shot too, where it's like even when ships are landing, there's like just that gust of wind that's hitting everyone as like things are taking off and stuff like that. And it's just that level of immersion that's happening there. And it immediately is setting up the theme for Mon Mothma and what she's going to have to experience, because she's been within this rebellion for like over a year now, which is a loss of control. And there's things that like are mechanisms that are happening outside of her control. And then to get a little bit further into where we'll be going within this conversation is that her realization that she herself is a mechanism. And like she does not have the ability to stop any of this anymore. Like she is in it. She's in the eating rat stage. And I think if you could trade everything that's happening to her with you need to eat a rat, like a womp rat, she would probably do it. Yes. And that's such a horrible position for that character to be in, and you feel it. You feel it in that last moment.
Oh man, that last moment, Shorty was just trying to, you know, what Salon say, you know, I try to dance it away, because, you know, she is straight up just trying to, you know, have her last moment of innocence, you know, her drunken revelry, whatever you want to call it, because after this, it's over.
Well, you know? I mean, we're there. Let's get into that a little bit. There's something really interesting there, where like we're seeing like sort of like the beginning and end story of what she thought her life was.
Yes.
And we're seeing this like she's having these secret conversations with I forgot her name, but she was a part of the Aldani mission. Her friend there, and like
that's her cousin.
Yes, her cousin. And they're having these little conversations and these little whispers, and they both seem to feel a bit more out of the loop, despite the fact that they both are still heavily funding and involved with this rebellion. And they're having these conversations with each other that feels like it should be a bit more impactful, or that like, you know anything? No, I don't know anything. You know why Luthen's here? No, I don't know why Luthen's here. I don't know what's been going on lately. And like they've been kept out of it. And it's because they have been quietly playing these very specific roles, but they were realizing they're also not as important, that they're kind of like propped up to lose more stuff as they go along rather than see immediate progress and the immediate reflection of like who they're going to be eventually is reflected within Mon Mothma's immediate like benefactor and partner who has been losing constantly just all of his money. He has lost his marriage, he has lost his business, and like he's just like, well, what do I get out of this? I see you're doing all right. This wedding looking kind of fly, ain't it? Like, what's like that crystal ball made out of like a lot of like well, I don't know what money they got in Star Wars,
but credits. The statue costs more than the house.
Yes.
And the house looked like it costs a lot of credits.
Yes.
So
he walks in there with like, or kind of like on his own thing. And like, I kind of feel for the man where he's just kind of like, yo, I've been putting this up for a while and I could get hung immediately for any of this. And it don't look like you've been putting in as much. Like, it looks like you still doing just fine. You eating over here pretty good. You feeding me. You know, like, well, like when am I going to see anything out of this rebellion? And I don't know, you seen any mafia movie? That's not the question you ask.
You said it right there, because that's where it reminded me so much of Goodfellas, where I can't remember the dude's name, but it was the guy who had the toupee and he was running the stupid ads and he was like, yo, what happened to my money? I was part of the whole thing. Where's my cut? And he ends up dead.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, damn, we're watching a mafia right here. And Luthen has these lines, like one of his lines in the first season when he's giving that great speech to the man is like, dude's like, do you think about what I've been through? He's like, I think of you often. Moving on.
I think of you constantly.
Yeah, you know, moving on. You know, what? And like he tells her, you know, isn't that nice that you don't know what I'm talking about? You know, isn't that great that you have this privilege to not think that we are at war? You know, that was just like one of the most cold-blooded and just wonderful lines. And by the end of this 3 episodes, that privilege is completely erased. And even, you know, her husband sees her and he's like, yo, shorty really drinking and dancing now. Like, the hell's going on, you know? Because I'm the one who's supposed to be getting faded like that.
So there's something like cryptically horrible about that too.
It is.
That she says to her daughter when she's trying to give her daughter an out. Where she's just like, none of this is important. None of this shit matters.
Yep.
Like, we could go out there and be like, hey, we're going to convene on another day. It's cool. And which is the sweetest thing you could say to your daughter on her wedding day. And she immediately is just hit with the wall of like, no, my daughter's completely conservative. And she doesn't see that even as like, she won't even entertain it as an option for an out.
She thinks you're like, yeah. And it, oh my God, man, this show's like, people are talking about how this season of Daredevil Born Again is really hitting, you know, but I'm like, y'all ain't seen Andor yet, honestly, because I've had these conversations with people where I'm like, oh, you really are, you know, you drank the Kool-Aid, you know, like, but, you know, in the famous Lethal Weapon 2, but you're black, you know, and I've had this conversation with brothers where I'm looking at them like, you know, but you're black. And you've drunk the Kool-Aid. You really believe, you know, the current state of affairs is the way it should be, and that's what her daughter is. I mean, her daughter is even like, no, not even like, it's not even the current state of affairs. You want to make, you know, she want to make the galaxy great again.
Yeah. Basically, just in the past, like 24 hours, she's been having this wedding party and like all these events. She's seeing her daughter break down and cry over something as simple as like a little small spurt of cruelty. When she knows that like this is going to be the rest of your life. This is only going to get a tiny piece of what you're going to be dealing with. And when Mon Mothma brings up to her daughter, just like, my mother was too drunk on my wedding day to say this. You are now within her shoes from that moment on for the rest of the episode. And you realize why her mother was drunk. It's that level of powerlessness. It's that level of like, this is the one thing I can do for me right now. It's I'm going to bring up a weird reference right now, but it's one of my favorite moments in all of television, believe it or not. There was that show that was like Kimmy Schmidt, where it's an incredibly dark show that is a comedy about how she lived, like she was kidnapped and kept in a bunker for most of her life.
Yeah.
And they finally meet her mother, who is played by Lisa Kudrow, which I think Lisa Kudrow should have got a Golden Globe for the role that she played, because she's like a carny now, and she like is just traveling around and everything like that. But when they ask her, like, how come you just did this? How come you didn't do anything else? And it's because she said that, like, whenever you're on roller coasters, people expect you to scream. And that tells you the story of like how hard she had looked for her, how hard she had fought for her daughter, everything that she needed to do to get her back, and just everyone ignored her, everything failed, and so she went to this place where she could actually just scream every day, and it was normal. And that is where Mon Mothma is, and like it's genius, it's brilliant, and like it's terrible. She's in a new level of hell within these episodes.
Yeah, and like you said, genius and brilliant. And the first time I watched it, especially the third episode, I was like, techno music in Star Wars? What the fuck?
It's way better than the jizz bands, man.
Yeah, true indeed. But then again, I was like, take your dumbass biases away and remember what you're watching. You're watching a show that takes it seriously.
Yeah.
And that music was so perfect because it's like just dance to oblivion, dance, 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 Yeah. And no, you cannot escape this. This is it. And like you said, another reference we talked about on the recap is The Wire. And for Mon Mothma, it felt like she was, McNulty at the end of The Wire, where he looked up and she looks up and it's like, damn, the cycle continues. All this shit I did, nothing mattered. And, things are going to change for Mon, but she knows that in this corner of the universe, in her personal corner, there's nothing I can do about it.
And the last piece I actually want to touch on there is everything's reflected on within Perrin, her husband.
I love Perrin.
And like just how gross that character is with his like diamond-studded Jedi cosplay, and still culturally appropriating even at his daughter's wedding. And before we always like saw her in season 1 as like immediately complicit, but now it's a bit more active in towards how he feels about fascism, and his wife sees it. And like the one thing that they point out heavily within these episodes is how likable he is to everyone else who wants to lean into complicity. And like he's talking about like the moments of laughter, the moments of joy, and everything like that. And he's immediately avoiding the conversation of like what it cost, because he's a bad person. And like it usually costs nothing from him. Definitely costs him everything from everyone else within his environment, including his wife. And so that's immediately what triggers her to go talk to her daughter. And like the kind of seeing that cycle start again, but also seeing how she got into it to begin with. Like now makes sense. Like he's just that silly, funny guy that made me laugh and makes me happy when I'm around him. And kind of seeing her business partner, who is now like 3 sheets to the wind, way too loud about a rebellion at a party and everything like that. He's like, I've been hanging out with your husband. It's wild that that's the red flag, right? It's wild that the red flag that he is not on our side, that this man is going to blackmail me for the rest of my life, that she found out what the quote unquote number was by thinking about like, you've been hanging out with my fascist husband, therefore I can't chill with you anymore. That's a level of dark that I wasn't fully braced for. You know what I mean?
But wasn't it also not just her husband, that he was also talking to her brother-in-law? I guess that is now
brother-in-law. I mean, catch me up on that. I don't know if I remember.
He was talking not just to her husband, but also to the dude who supplied the money in the first place. The dude who.
Oh yeah, I guess that would be her. Well, it'll be her daughter's new father-in-law, right?
Father-in-law. So that's her.
So I
don't know how it works. Yeah.
There's a degree of darkness in there, and this is where I was talking about where like she discovers that she is a mechanism, which is he is this. He did the speech where he said that Luthen was the one that came up with the idea, and she never knew it. So all of this, and it's kind of like quickly glazed over, and we haven't seen the results of it yet. And it's just a moment where he's just like, yeah, Luthen came up with this, that we should introduce our kids to each other. And so I brought it up to Mom Mothma. And like the look on her face is like, it's a 2-second shot. And it is the most fury you'll see out of Mon Mothma out of the entire series so far. And she hasn't had that conversation with Luthen yet because the hushed conversations they've had are like, are you about to murder my friend? And the answer was yes.
Yo, what's up, fam? It is I, Tatiana King, and I want y'all to know that I need you to do me a favor. Please share this show. You're listening to us, you're watching us, but you're gatekeeping, and I don't understand why you're doing that. I really need you to share with your friends, share with your mama, share with your cousin, share with everybody, because if you're like me, you love to share the joy, and it's really important that you do that. So please tell people about ForAllNerds. I love you.
So yeah, so goddamn, Luthen is always like
he's behind that dude.
Yeah, it's just behind everything.
Everything.
All right. Another thing I wanted to touch on in this first episode is the Ministry of Enlightenment and these scumbag niggas who are, yeah, like that whole sequence. What's my man's name? Krennic? The Return of Krennic, isn't it?
The Return of Krennic. Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, I don't know the actor's name, but absolutely eating it as Krennic as always. And then the whole Ministry of Enlightenment, the Gorman video, like the Gorman tourism video, everything about that scene. It's like all these things that we haven't really seen in Star Wars that much, but just feel so right, for it. And then the Ministry of Enlightenment just being the most evil PR scum ever. It's just so right because that's, Nazis had this type of thing. The Empire would have that type of thing. I mean, America has this type of thing. So,
oh my God, I hate every one of these fuckers. It's pretty much our current government. Mm-hmm. And like, there's this whole conversation that they have where it's just like, okay, everybody spitball genocide and break. And so everyone's just like, so this is how we started off. We're going to get the propaganda in there. We're going to blame the brown people. And then once we blame the brown people, boom. Next thing you know, they're going to start killing the brown people. We come in and we just like, hey, we're going to help you with that. And then we're going to get in there. We're going to take over everything. It's going to be great. And then everyone is just like, maybe we should start, maybe we just start doing like a massive amount of arrests. I don't know. Like we just get them like all riled up. And like, maybe like everyone is doing their little part to just kind of like talk over cheese and fucking crackers.
Yeah.
The palest individuals you've ever seen all discussing how do I commit a genocide? And like, before we cut from that too, there is something that like Tony Gilroy did with the casting that I think is very important for everyone on the Imperial side, and that goes from season 1 to season 2, is that everyone that is on the Imperial side is a very pale, weird looking or awkward loser. It is entirely dedicated to people who look like they could not survive in the Wild West, which is essentially what Star Wars universe is. Mm-hmm. They do not have the physical ability. And so it is like they joined the Empire because they believe it is the correct thing to level the playing field. Mm-hmm. And you can see that even within our current administration.
Yeah, because I love that you pointed that out because it is like even the minor characters, but like Cyril is like one of the prime examples of that because Cyril is someone who is just looking for love and acceptance. And it's like, I know there's a lot of talk these there's a lot of talk these days about, young men and how they're lonely and how they end up on these right-wing extremisms. And I've seen it now. Oh man, I've seen it, but it's so sad. But, I also was used to be like, how, why, and fucking dudes, get over yourself. But then you see someone like Cyril and it's so plainly, shown on the show that it can happen to anyone, because people are out here just looking for love and looking for, groups and ways to find yourself and people to reinforce your way of thinking. And then, like you said, when you're not someone who can survive in this rough, rugged world that, this universe is, and, our world is for that matter, like America is still very much the Wild Wild West. You're going to look for a stronger group to take care of you.
Yeah, you're going to look for something that has like some kind of a stranglehold, something that can add some kind of level of authority over everyone. And then all you got to do is just kind of rise your ranks in that. And it's just like, well, and then you're like, now this is how society should work. And like a fucking loser. Because like the more that you can extract freedoms away from people, the more you feel safe. The more that you can feel comfort. And then the things that you are offering more people is just complicity. And because you're speaking to them as if it's a matter of fact, as like this is just how the world should work. This is how it should look, and like this is how it should be. Because look at how like peaceful things could be if everyone just was told to do what they should be doing a little bit more often. And that's why you just punch them in the face. And you have to bring the real world to them. And you got two ways to do it, and they're connected to your body. But yeah.
And Cyril's like a great example. Like I said this on our recap, how we were talking about like the prison arc and how well it illustrates prison. And I feel like Cyril, his whole arc is another side of that I feel like isn't discussed enough, as well as like the jailers. You know, I realized this when I was incarcerated, that the jailers were in a much worse position than me because this was their life. Like I was going to go home at some point. These motherfuckers was going to come back to work the next day and still be in this prison. And it's going to affect them because, you know, taking people's freedom away is going to affect you just as much. And it's trying to institutionalize you in a way. And we see that when Cyril is recruiting the new person into like, every time they show that office, bro, it is like one of the most disturbing sights I've ever seen in my life. Like I used to have nightmares as a kid about things like that. And seeing it realized in real life is just so disturbing. And Cyril is now fully engaged in it, where he's like, this is how it should be. And if you just put in the work, you can just be a mindless minion and you'll rise up in the ranks of mindless minions and it'll be great.
He's like, isn't there so much peace in that?
Yeah.
Like, look at this order. And like it's such a genius move. I was not expecting to come into the season and he would be the comedy relief.
Yes.
And like it's completely laughing at anyone of his style and his point of view. And I wonder how many people are going to understand that like he is the comedy. There's everything dealing with like his mom and his girlfriend having a conversation where they are taking turns commanding him as he is like the camera work is even playing with it, because there's a point where he goes out of focus in a story about him. Just in the background.
To mom destroying his cake, you know, that he has this perfect structure to, and the mom is just sitting there mashing the cake to death as she's eating, just destroying everything about it. And I'll say this: I never thought watching Star Wars before that I had the thought, I wonder, is that man like being pegged or is he like edging? One of the two, you know, this man is.
I think we'll find out by the end of the season, to be honest.
I seriously feel like we're going to find out by the end of the season. But he's either a pegger or an edger. That's all I'm going to say on that. If you don't know what those are, you can Google it, folks. But yeah, Dedra definitely pumps Peggy. That's a great song, actually, if you haven't heard it. But, you know, yeah, that's definitely on her playlist.
I'm going to be referring to him as baby girl for the remainder of the season. He has strong, like, I don't know if you know the phrase, but baby girl, I mean, like, if you know Cyril Karn, you know what the phrase baby girl means. It's just like, oh, like, it's kind of like this little lamb of a child that needs to be protecting and needs to be told what to do. And like, that's where Cyril is in this relationship. It's just, there's nothing. Like he's always aspiring for more than what he actually deserves. And he is like, he thinks he's near the top because his girlfriend is at the top. And so he's just like, oh, by proxy, I am doing amazing. That scene where he's laying in bed and his eyes are open and his ass is in the air and he's just kind of letting the adults that control his life talk in the other room.
He might as well have had his thumb in his mouth, boy. Like it was, yeah. I mean, he was purely in the fetal position. Oh boy, Cyril.
It's incredible. It's such a. I wasn't expecting it. Me and my wife were laughing the entire time. I loved every Cyril Karn moment.
I was not expecting him and Dedra, right? Is Dedra?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not him and Dedra to be together, but I love it. I love that they are both these two people who have no soul, and they're like trying to put on the face of a human in these whole encounters, and it's just failing miserably. And then Dedra just leans into it like, this is who I am. Let me just boss this mom around and then smirk after I've done it.
Well, I want to ask you questions about Dedra too, because like that character is complicated in a way that I don't quite understand.
Yeah.
There's a complexity to her just kind of wanting to run away from doing this genocide.
Yep.
And is that a conversation about what she thinks the Empire is compared to what the Empire actually is? Like, there is a level of like how Cyril is just like, I want control. Like, I love the structure of control and order. And Dedra, I personally believe she thinks that she's legitimately doing good, that the Empire are the good guys. And then when you start to dip into things like, hey, we're going to have to run a genocide on an entire planet, is she like the military soldier that's suddenly like, what if I defected? What if I just went AWOL or anything like that? And I don't know if it's that far, but it's the level of doubt that they do emphasize in multiple scenes and conversations with her that is like, where is this character? Like, what does she want, and what exactly does she want to do?
Well, that's the thing. Like, her superior tells her, you've been sitting here chasing Axis for the last years. You've made this whole story up. Maybe it's like she knows that she can't catch him, so that's why she, kept following him around. But I don't know if it's as much that she doesn't want to do the genocide as that she doesn't want to do this genocide. I feel like she feels like this genocide is beneath her. I don't feel like she's opposed to genocide. Like, that's not the vibe that I got from her. I got that she might enjoy a genocide or two. I think that she feels like this genocide is beneath her, and that's why she doesn't want to be involved. Like, she's sitting there, like she's looking at these idiots walking around this room, and she's like, why am I here? I'm better than this. Once again, the Cyril thing. She's in this room full of these old men. She's the only woman there. All these dudes are there, and they're all talking a bunch of dumb shit. And she knows the solution right away. She knows Krennic knows that she knows the solution. She knows that's why she's there. But she still feels like this is beneath her. Now, we'll see when the actual genociding gets down, how does that affect her? But at this point, I think she's still, I wasn't really getting the vibe like she's ready to break it off with the Empire yet.
Yeah. Because there's definitely so both her and Cyril are characters that we've discovered within the last season, that they're both characters who have problems pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
They can't get real handsy, not like our girl Senna, who only pulls the trigger.
Man, I love her.
Just to take a quick sidebar for that. Oh yeah, when she popped up, I'm like, yo. But
I love how she did that dude in at the end of the last season when she said, what are you doing here? Don't worry about the fuck I'm doing here. I'm gonna take this knife in the gut. Asking stupid questions.
Andor got lucky he didn't run into her around the corner. But
for real.
But the two of them do not have that ability at all. But she does have the advantage of that she is a tactical genius. And like a terrifying one at that, a more hands-off one. She is sort of like their Mon Mothma in that regard. And it's interesting to see, like, even when she's not hands-on, does she still feel like her hands could get too dirty? So I do want to see where that goes. And speaking of hands getting dirty, everything that's happening with Bix, Brazo, and Will. Oh Jesus! Oh no, you want to get us into this one?
I mean, the first thing I want to say is I remember we were talking about this when I was doing my rewatch, and I was like, I'd forgotten about how fucked up Bix's storyline was. During the first, since I'd watched it the first time, and then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. this is some of the most horrible shit ever, you know? And this is something that I really relate to right now because I've had a recent, even though I lived through incarceration, I had a lot of recent, very traumatic experiences where I've had a hard time moving on, and I spend a lot of time in my thoughts reliving them. And so this opening, like the opening when she's in bed and has the nightmare, it really rocked me. All everything she's going through has been rocking me. It's hard for me to watch the scenes with Bix, honestly. And
I
then
also want to, before moving on from that, I do want to give a quick shout out that Adria Arjona is giving the best performance of the series so far, and that's saying, in these episodes, and that's saying a lot.
It is.
Everyone in the show is a heavy hitter.
Yeah,
but she radiates this she's forcing herself to get through every day.
Yeah, every
line of dialogue, and it's incredible the performance she's doing, and I'm afraid of it getting overlooked. It probably won't, because I am just crossing fingers. There's some big stuff planned for her in the future, but it's a hell of a performance that she's doing, because whenever she's on the screen, I am stressed.
Yes. Yeah. Like I say, over the last year, I've had some traumatic experiences where I've been, having a hard time, and I know what that's like, where it's like every moment you're having to, okay, I'm here right now. Like, I've had to live that a lot lately. Like, I'm here. I'm not there. I'm here right now. Keep going, Ben. And it's been tough. And I see and feel it in her. And rewatching this watching this has been so difficult. And we're going to have to talk about it because there's an attempted rape in this episode. And beyond, I don't know what that's like, but I do know, like I said, this year I had some shit happen to me where it's like I was taken advantage of even, and it's hard to deal with that when you feel like you're at fault, etc., all these type of things. And I didn't have an opportunity to fight back and against the person who did it to me, which was fantastic to see. But it was so many levels to it, because like I say, I've been incarcerated, and I can't imagine someone who was involved in that incarceration coming back, or someone associated with that coming back around and attempting to violate me again.
It's horrible. It's tragic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for whatever you feel in the process too, because they definitely are portraying it as realistic as possible to get into the PSTD of everything that's happening with this character. There's moments where you don't want her in a room alone.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want her to just kind of get too much space, and you just want other characters around to comfort her. And the level of tension she's adding to the entire series and each one of her scenes, where it's just when the guardrails start to fail, this is the person that is going to affect immediately. And it's hard to watch. It's really hard to watch, and you're always rooting for her. It's incredibly compelling, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's just yo, can we give Bix a minute? Can we give her? Can we give her some time to just kind of breathe for a bit, or anything like that? She's a refugee on the run. She's lost everything. She lost her boyfriend in the first season. What was it? She
was tortured.
She was tortured by listening to the sound of colonized creatures' children scream constantly
as they were killed.
Yes. And the Star Wars compendium, they actually talk about it. I think it was only 5 or so people were tortured that way, and they all went out of their minds. And to put Bix on that list is it's intense. So I don't even know where the character is going to go if that was the conclusion as to what happened to all those individuals.
No, and I'm like I said, when you were talking about, I just want to see Bix fight back this season. I did too, but it's also we're having to see everything, like we keep going back to the consequences of everything that happened to Bix in the first season. Even though she is this warrior, one of the probably the toughest character on the show, she's been through a lot, and even the strongest among us, can crumble and fall, and you see that. And like you say, you're just always rooting for her. You just want someone to hug her, and it hurt so much the end of this, 3-episode arc, because we have that mirroring of the first 3-episode arc where Cassian was being taken off his planet, as a young boy and as a grown man by Marva and by Luthen. And now he's taking, Bix and Will away, and he looks back at Bix, and Bix is completely shattered. And, he doesn't even have that look of hope or that smile that Marva gave him, anything. It's just, Cassian is drained. He's not even the same person that we met at the beginning of this 3-episode arc when he's all telling Shorty, this is all it's about. And, it's worth it, even if you die tonight, because he didn't die. He has that survivor's remorse now where it's like, I didn't die, and the person who shouldn't have died is dead there on the ground, and I have to keep going.
There's that level of like the loss of Brazo is the loss of normalcy.
Yeah, it's the innocence again.
Even back on Ferrix, there was like that level of like, well, Brazo's here. Or like, I'm in some trouble, Brazo's going to cover for me.
Yep.
Like, I'm going to give a story for Brazo to tell, and Brazo came up with a better one.
Yes, immediately. Yeah.
And like, Brazo was the one that grabbed Will, and he's just like, we ain't get the fuck out of here. Brazo is just like the heart of everything.
Yeah.
And when you have someone like that around, there's still a little bit of the youth you can have left. There's still like a little bit of like I could mess up a little bit because Brazo is there, and that crutch is gone, and like it's devastating, and especially in this world that's like so incredibly dark. Where I think within the that particular storyline, within these 3 episodes, the moment that like even more than the assault itself, but the moment that shook me the most was when Will is saying goodbye to who is essentially his girlfriend on the planet. And when she runs back to her planet, the imps are there, and they're like doing a Inglorious Bastards thing, questioning her parents. And she walks up, and that one snivelly little just piece of shit is like, he like takes a glance at her. And the mother looks at her daughter, and she's like, get in the house.
Yep.
She's like, what do you mean? She's like, get in the house because I told you to get in the house, because she immediately recognized that he was a predator, that he was a weak man who had got like just enough power to do what he wants to someone like that. And like, that is like horrific. And
it was when he walked up on Bix, the very first time and started talking to her. And like I said, I've been incarcerated, and I've had to deal with my jailers, when they would talk to you and just be like, kiss my ass, basically, or what, and you had to sit there and smile in their face and act like everything's normal when you and them both know it's not normal. And at any point they can inflict any type of torture or anything they want on you. And as a woman, Bix, who's been through all this stuff before, it fucking made my skin crawl, man. It's just like,
yeah.
I was so happy when she fucking hit that dude over the head, and then when she hit him again, it was just. And that was something else I want to give a shout out to the filmmakers. Like, I love how Bix fought. Like, she immediately struck that man with the bone, hit him with the karate chop to the face right away. Smart move, kick to the balls, continually hit him at all his weak spots. And then when she got her hand on the hammer, laid it down on his ass as she should.
And what's really interesting about the way that Bix fights too is that like there's something about her fighting herself even more than she's fighting her assailant.
Yeah.
It's her like pushing past the fear. You and I watching this know that that man is as good as dead.
Yeah.
And like that's an awareness that we have. But the thing that is very specific is that like she's working through a trauma in the middle of that fight, and that makes him a little bit worse than just a regular like stormtrooper to kind of come into a room like that. And it's like she has that like that grittiness about her, and it's a level of grit that unfortunately we can't extend to the I can't even call them rebels, but the individuals that take Cassian hostage on the planet. These fucking
I have goofballs. My one last thing on Bix is like that I want to say is like you said, she's fighting her trauma, and she's also like she tells dude, it's like kind of like the Wolverine situation where it's like, you know, don't do this or I'm going to kill you. You know, like you think you're gonna, attack me and do everything you want with me, and like I'm begging for mercy. I'm saying, please don't do it because I don't want to be, assaulted. No, it's like, please don't do this because I'm going to break you in half, and that's going to be the end of you. And I have in my notes on the, like you said, I can't call them the rebels. The Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Flies and clowns is what I kept referring to them again and again. Clowns.
Are they like Bushwick Ewoks? Like
they are like, but again, like I know you were talking about this in the recap, how it calls out liberals and everyone involved, because it shows you that, like, we say, go back to one of my favorite quotes, are you ready to eat rats to survive? And these dudes were not ready to eat rats. Not a one of them was ready to eat rats. They couldn't even eat fucking melons. Like, these niggas was not about that life.
Even when he's talking about, like, where's my contact that I'm supposed to meet? Like, Cassie is just like, who's the dude I'm supposed to meet about this ship? And the only real response they could have, because they can't even take accountability for the stupid shit that they did, was just like, he was very mean.
Yeah.
And that's how he knows he's in danger.
We are at war. Yeah. Like, oh my God. Cassian is like, oh my God, I've wandered into a crew of idiots. And like you said, he keeps emphasizing, look, we are fighting a rebellion. We are on the same side. And these idiots over here just can't get it because they're looking for glory. They're looking for fame. They're like the young dudes who got enlisted and thought it was to be, women and all that shit when they got overseas. And then they realized they're in a war. And it's a slaughterhouse.
It's definitely like, so Luthen and Saw Gerrera talk about this at near the end of the first season, that these people exist.
Yeah.
And they're the biggest headache that they have, because it's just like, all of these groups are from different sectors.
Yeah.
And they all have the fighting spirit of just like, I am going to fuck up the Empire.
Yep.
But they hate each other.
Yes.
And like they are always bumping heads with each other, and it's just it's a mess. And the kind of like and I know you and I love this show, and like I wish more people watched it, but the first season of the Saved by the Bell reboot, at the end of the end of the season, there's that whole argument where it's like all of the very progressive leftist groups are yelling at each other about how to solve a problem about racism. And it's just like,
when they're all in the classroom.
It's just like, we need to do the best poetry that we've ever had. It's like, no, I'm going to do my slam dance. It's like, no, we're going to sign a petition.
Yeah.
It's just like, everyone is just like, they believe they're very much like, they're kind of like softer or overly aggressive or different things, different ways of doing it is the correct way of doing it. And so that's kind of like the biggest issue of like a very leftist rebellion, which is that like, because it believes in like an overt level of progressivism, there's no order. And if you don't have a Luthen in the room that's just like, shut the fuck up, you children, then this is what you get. And they don't have one. And the most capable person there, they've tied up. And he's just waiting for a moment to just get out of there.
Yes.
And when he is like getting back in the TIE fighter, he just shoots one.
That was the best. That was the best. Because it went back to Cassian being Cassian. Like, nah, bro. He's like, I've assessed this situation. None of you are built for this life.
Yeah,
all of you are dead very soon. Yeah. Either way, I'm just speeding up natural selection right here. I love how the two bosses of the idiots both got ate in one bite. Like that was so like I will say this about the second season. There's a lot more humor than I remember from the first season. Even though there is like the darkness is on full tilt.
At full tilt.
It's been balanced well with like, these two idiots getting ate, in one gulp. And then them shooting ineffectually at Cassian as he flies away, and they're all standing there like, "Oh, okay. Well, what do we do now?" Like, you get 8 too.
Like these 3 episodes were incredible. Like, if you think about them as like one full movie, everything that we just talked about happened within the span of 3 hours, and that is crazy. That's crazy that we got this much content in just a span of 3 hours, and like it's all just like some of the best stuff I've seen this year, and like it's so good.
It's like if we had to wait a year or whatever for another movie, you would feel like it because it would be like this was a great movie right here.
Yeah, I would be good.
Like if this was the first part of a trilogy, you'd be like, wow, I can't wait to see the rest of this trilogy because Jesus, they set it up in this one. Yeah. I don't think there's much more to talk about. I do want to give a quick shout out to the unlimited power reference that they made when they talk about how the Emperor is searching for unlimited power. Like, again, that was a little inside joke. If people who know, when the Emperor is killing Mace Windu, he screams, "Unlimited power!" I honestly did not know what the fuck he was saying for years. I thought he was just, and so then
there's this running joke that the show has about that. That's so good. It's such a good running joke. The fact that people continue to talk about Palpatine like he's just a dude.
Yes.
Like he's just a dude that gives out emails.
Yes.
And that he'll say something in an email like unlimited power. And that shit, because he doesn't go on TV because he looks like, like several asses glued together. Yes. And so the fact that you get an email from a dude that you don't know that says unlimited power, and he's like, that's the president. Yeah.
I mean, it feels very,
very relevant.
Once again, very relevant. But yeah, the fact that this dude was screaming about unlimited power as he killed Mace Windu, and he's still searching for it after, that's also the funniest thing to me too, because it's like the Emperor already has the unlimited power, and yet he's still like, I need more unlimited power. Yeah. So, that's about it for our recap review of the first 3 episodes of Andor. We will definitely be back to talk more about everything with this show. Like I say, it's turning into one of my favorite shows of all time, if not my favorite show of all time. So make sure make sure you hit that like and subscribe. We'll be back, I guess, next week to talk about the next 3 episodes, which will be dropping next week on Disney Plus. So make sure you watch those. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Like I said before, follow ForAllNerds on all platforms. Hit the like, follow on YouTube, on Twitch, on Spreaker, on iTunes, wherever. I mean, not iTunes. They ain't got that shit more. I don't know, whatever, the Apple Podcasts, all that shit. Make sure you hit that follow, that like. It means the world. Thank you. This is your boy, DJ Ben Amin, joined by my brother, Mello Brown. You can pick up our book, Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze, in stores now. Or you can also get some of his other books from the Blade Runner collection. But we got Blade Runner Origins, Blade Runner Tokyo Nexus, and Blade Runner
2039, I think.
Yeah, that was the other one.
I write a lot of them. Yeah,
it's a lot of Blade Runners out there, and this man wrote most of them. So pick them up. Mello Brown, boy DJ Ben Amin. Make sure you head over to ForAllNerds.com and you can get fly ass merch like this Gucci Mandalorian shirt. I got the sweatshirt on, but the t-shirt is available now. We got a few other Star Wars related stuff so you can get ready for your watches at Andor. So hit up ForAllNerds.com and get yourself some of this merch. And that's about it for this. We'll be back next week to talk more. Peace out. Hey y'all, thank you for watching this ForAllNerds video, whatever video it was that you just watched. Make sure you hit these buttons below. Press all those buttons, that like, that subscribe, whatever you see right below these fingertips right here. Just hit them, hit them, hit them. For All Nerds Show is a member of the Loudspeakers Network, where we always say rest in peace to our founder, Combat Jack.
For All Nerds Show is powered by our listeners. Everything we do, from our podcasts, live events, our website, are all independently funded. Please continue to support us through our Patreon page at patreon.com/forallnerds.